Hi guys, and welcome to How to Draw with Ink. So I'm going to teach you today how to use what India ink in a sort of watercolor painterly style. And what you need to start first is you need to stretch out your watercolor paper, and you can find that in Walmart anywhere. It's pretty cheap. It's about $2 for 15 sheets of 9 by 12, I think. And you do. I'll include some instructions on the sidebar on how to stretch the paper. But basically, what it's going to do, it's going to prevent it from warping and stretching out too bad, so it'll dry perfectly flat no matter how wet you get it. So what you need to do to start first is you need to draw the clouds, and how you do that is you make a light wash of India ink, and a little bit goes a long way because it's really thick, and I use Higgins black ink. And you need to wet down your paper with clean water, and then use a stable brush to lay down some blobs that'll be your clouds, and make sure you leave some white spaces. And the most my rule of thumb for drawing skies is that you have to do the higher clouds a little darker because they're closer to you, and as you get down at the bottom, the clouds are much smaller and much lighter. And pretty much the rule of thumb with watercolor is that you make everything closest to you darker and everything farthest lighter. And now I'm using a fountain pen filled with the same ink to draw a basic outline of my tree. And now I'm using a colored pencil made into a dip pen to draw some leaves, and it's sort of a stipple effect. You don't have to go into much detail, you don't have to address every single leaf on the branches, but you should make sort of a rough outline, and it'll look like leaves. So now I'm using a size 0 stable brush to blend, and now I'm going over that with the ink, and sort of use don't stipple as much as lay down a few blobs of different sizes. And as you can see now, there's some holes where the sky is showing in my tree, and what you want to do is you want to do the top of the sky holes darker than the bottom, so everything in the sky hole is getting light but the top. Now go over it and blend. It's a good idea to have a paper towel or a tissue to blob out some extra ink. So now moving on to the background, and in the background you don't want to go into as much detail because it will distract your attention from your main subject, but you want to address things. Just making the clouds a little darker, apply some color, and then blob out the extra with the paper towel. This, for the small details, is when the small brush really comes in handy. And now I'm drawing the grass for under the tree, and I'm using a fan brush. I think it's a size 4. But how you do this is that you make sure that you don't go into as much detail as well as the tree, because it'll sort of look a little overdone. And a good rule for doing this is that you address only the blades of grass that are in the shadow of the tree, and the rest is just the wash, and that'll make it look like the entire hill is filled with grass. Do small strokes, sort of stippling it. Don't do long strokes. And in the background, as I said, you don't go into as much detail, but you do address things. When selecting brushes, make sure you select sable, or at least a good synthetic, because they hold color a lot better and you don't have to redip them as much. And if you don't have to redip them, then they will make a smooth watercolor. And from my experience, synthetic brushes make paintings a little blotchy and you can see strokes, and stable brushes have a much smooth color laydown. So I've selected my light source coming from the back, so that means almost all the tree will be dark. It's not coming from any particular side, just the back of the background. But it is geared towards sort of the right. So back, you can see that in the background trees. So now I'm laying down, as I said, the top of the clouds. It's a little darker. So don't be afraid to really get a lot of paint on there, because since you stretch out your watercolor paper, then it's not going to bend or warp. And when drawing clouds, it's good that ink runs, because it'll create a really soft feel, and it'll make them a lot more realistic. Alright, so thanks for watching. Make sure you visit my gallery at j-zamora.deviantart.com. I'll put a link on the sidebar, and thanks for watching. Subscribe, comment, and there'll be a lot more coming. Thank you.